This is Fight for Me, a short story written by myself. As this story can get a little action-packed, I advise you to check the content warnings before listening if you feel inclined to, and with that, we will begin the story. Remus was no stranger to fate. He had heard Janice go off on rants about the concept, had seen the horoscopes that Logan claimed to be poppycock. Even Patton had discussed the possibility of a predetermined future, one in which those who do good will receive good in the end. Nothing good came to Remus's aid as he fled to the borders of the imagination. Magenta smoke lashed at his ankles as he ran, the normally blue sky shifting into an eerie gray. Each tree twisted into a crooked form, silently reaching for the Duke with their sharpened branches. One managed to catch onto Remus's sleeve mid-sprint, leaving a jagged scratch across his forearm. He ignored the sting. The injury was the least of his worries. If he could just reach one of the others, there was a chance to save it all. The door to the imagination lay feet away, its golden frame serving as a mockery to the dangers at his heels. Remus lunged forward, straining to reach the shining handle. An invisible force knocked him off his feet, and he was sent tumbling across the jagged terrain. He quickly pushed himself onto his elbows before the sound of laughter left his blood running cold. Well, 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 isn't this just pitiful? Remus coughed, brushing the dirt from his sleeves. What do you want, Dragon Witch? The woman in front of him perked up at the name. Deep pink scales were scattered across her temples, while claws itched to emerge from her fingertips. A pair of wings lay folded at her back as she grinned to reveal a mouth of fangs. I seek nothing much, just the control over both your kingdoms. She smiled, gesturing to the two castles that towered above the landscape, one a cream white and the other midnight black. Not a chance, Witchy. I'm afraid I just can't part with my crowns, or weapons collection for that matter. You're really joking at a time like this? The Dragon Witch chuckled. You're weak, and your realm is as good as mine. False, Remus grinned. You're not the only one here with power. He thrust out his hand where a morning star emerged from thin air. The weapon weighed heavily in his hands, and he happily gave it a practice swing. The Dragon Witch only chuckled, a sign that never led to anything good. Such theatrics! It seems you really are just like your brother. Remus's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? I believe it's time for a little family reunion, don't you think? At this, magenta smoke rose from the ground, swirling in a cloudy mess as the Dragon Witch cackled. Remus gripped the handle of his weapon tighter. The grin upon his face faltered, though he maintained his stance. That is, until the smoke cleared. Roman? Remus gasped, his knees going weak at the sight of his brother. He rushed forward, coming to catch the prince just before he collapsed to the ground. What did you do to him, you wretch? The Dragon Witch shook her head. Such unkind words after I have been nothing but merciful to you. Remus ignored her, and instead looked to his brother. Roman's eyes were glazed over, completely unseeing, yet he was still breathing. Thank God. Leave him alone, Remus sneered. Release him now. I'm sorry, but I just can't do that. The Dragon Witch chuckled, her whole body now emanating a pink glow. You see, your brother and I made a deal. In exchange for your protection, he offered himself, and I was kind enough to accept this. You should be glad he would care for you so. No, Remus muttered, looking to face the emerald green eyes of his twin. Ones that were once so bright, now obscured in smoke. You idiot! You promised you wouldn't do this. We had a deal, Roman. I'm afraid he can't hear you. The Dragon Witch grinned, closing her hand into a tight fist. Roman suddenly stood, his limbs rigid and the fog swirling wildly in his eyes. He's mine now. The Dragon Witch flicked her wrist, and Roman thrust forward, a sword appearing in his hand. Good luck, she purred, as Roman swung his sword in a wide arc, missing the Duke's head by inches. Remus stumbled back, his heels digging deep into the dirt. He glanced up just in time to see Roman advancing. He raised his morning star, and their weapons collided with a brilliant clash. Dirt flew from the forest floor, stinging Remus's eyes as he swerved left. His brother's blade just missed his shoulder. Remus quickly lunged in the other direction while Roman's back was still turned. He knocked his brother off his feet, turning to face the Dragon Witch. I won't hurt him, Remus growled. You can't make me fight. A pity, she crooned. Even your demise will be in vain. A cold wind brushed past his side. Roman had gotten up and seemed in no mood to stop. Remus's eyes grew wide as a flash of silver flew in his direction. He barely had time to blink before raising his own weapon, stopping the blow just inches from his target. He pressed forward, knocking Roman off balance. The hindrance only lasted for a moment before the prince came back twice as hard. Roman thrust forward, catching the tip of his blade on Remus's forearm. The Duke winced at the blow and staggered back only to be met with the cackling of the Dragon Witch. What's so funny, dragon snitch? He panted, clutching his forearm. Did you get a new pair of winged shoes? A small trickle of red dripped from between his fingers. The cut stung, but Remus grit his teeth and tried to ignore the ache. There wasn't time to lose focus. I'd suggest you cut the jokes, Remus. Otherwise your last words will end up a mockery. You mean like you? Remus grinned, though was quickly cut off by a sword slashing in his direction. He dodged, rolling to the side with a grunt. Roman had always been the faster one. Remus was coming to despise that fact as he avoided several blows, each one training closer to its target. He began to slow, sweat covering his brow and the sting of his wounds heightening. Roman, however, did not appear to have tired at all. Curse that black magic. Remus searched his brother's eyes for any sign of recognition, any sliver that may reveal he could fight it. Roman's eyes remained gray and unseeing, though that did not stop the prince from hitting a clear blow. Blade met flesh once again as the Duke was 1 second slow to counter. It was his shoulder this time, and Remus cried out as the blade connected. The Dragon Witch grinned, laughing as Remus jumped back. Come on, fight back. Don't leave me without entertainment. She flicked her wrist again, and Roman's stance wavered just for a moment before his limbs again came rigid. He lunged forward, catching Remus's sash in his fist before the other could twist away. The Duke winced, struggling to lift his weapon despite the wounds that littered his body. He couldn't wrestle free, not even as Roman brought his sword to Remus's throat. So this is how it ends, he muttered, his breathing ragged. I always knew you were a cheat. Just accept defeat, and maybe I'll let you go out in a blaze of glory, the Dragon Witch said, almost bored with the sight before her. Either that, or you could strike down your opponent. Keep dreaming, witch, Remus sneered, dropping his morning star to the ground. Pathetic, she sighed, giving a final wave of her hand. Finish him, Roman. Remus met Roman's gaze, cold and hazy. He longed for the emerald spark that used to shine within those eyes. He sighed, wincing as his brother's blade touched his skin. Roman, I pray you can hear me right now. I need you to fight back. Please, resist whatever she's done to you. I know you can. It's useless trying to get through to him. Give up already. I won't, Remus spat, clenching his fist tight. For all the octopi and rotten banana peels in the world, I won't stop trying to save you. Roman, please, break free. Don't listen to her. This is pitiful to watch. Will you just end it already? The dragon witch barked, and Roman gripped the hilt of his sword tighter. The cold metal gleamed as he brought it up past his shoulder. One final swing, and Remus would be done for. Please, Remus muttered, gazing into what once were his brother's eyes. Roman, if you're in there, you have to resist her. I know you can. Roman didn't respond. His expression still cold and unreadable. The end. As the light caught the edge of Roman's blade, Remus came to admire the sight. He had never noticed how the metal sparkled under the perfect angle. It was all he could do to bring comfort to himself as the sword came swiftly down towards him. He closed his eyes, willing his face into a smile, so at least then the dragon witch wouldn't have the pleasure of seeing his pain as he waited for his demise. The blow never came. Remus blinked his eyes open, perplexed. He shouldn't still be standing. He should be writhing on the ground, his vision slowly fading into black. What had happened? The answer lay on his tongue as he caught sight of Roman's sword. It had been thrust into the ground, a mere inches from the Duke. Tears stung Remus's eyes as he turned to face his brother. Roman, you did it? He breathed, eyes wide. His brother reflected his expression, shaking slightly. I heard you. I heard you telling me to resist. Thank God you listened for once in your life, Remus muttered, still in a bit of shock. I figured I'd have to at least once, Roman smiled, taking a step back. That was when he noticed the Duke's state. Rem, he said shakily. You're hurt. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Roman held his hand hesitantly over Remus's shoulder, wincing as blood trickled from the wound. I did that. It's all right. No, it's not all right. I did that. I hurt you. The prince's eyes grew shiny. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Rem. He thrust forward, wrapping his arms tight around the Duke. Remus tried not to wince at the sudden pressure, ignoring the dull ache in his bones to return the hug. Don't you dare apologize, Remus muttered, holding Roman closer. That wasn't you. That dirty witch had you wrapped around her finger. It wasn't your fault. Ouch, a voice purred off to the side. Roman flinched, turning to face the dragon witch with eyes narrowed. You, he spat. How dare you show your face in these lands? Can a girl not wish for a little power? The dragon witch smirked. I would have gotten what I wanted if it weren't for your pain of a twin. You've lost. Leave this place now. I don't think so. Not until Remus pays for what he has done. She held her palms out, a purple glow suddenly shining in her eyes. The dragon witch snarled, and light began to collect in her palms. It burned a brilliant magenta, all circling inside her now clasped hands. Both brothers stood at the ready with their weapons gripped tightly in their hands. The dragon witch released her power. Like a lightning strike, it blazed forward in a crackling glory. Remus jumped to the side just as the magic word passed. Ha! You missed! The dragon witch quirked a brow, smirking. Oh, I wasn't aiming for you. Remus blanched. Behind him, Roman stood, clutching his stomach while clearly trying to repress his pained expression. They locked eyes, and Remus felt sick to his stomach. Roman reached out, swaying as he attempted to step forward but collapsing to the ground instead. Remus rushed forward, catching his brother before he hit the ground. Roman's hand was dark as it came away from his wound. Ash. Cackling sounded from behind. What better punishment than to take away what you value most? The dragon witch hummed. This is the last time you'll cross me. You're a monster, Roman hissed, though was cut off by a coughing fit. Remus was silent, his eyes as wide as saucer dishes. Say what you want, Prince, but I've won. Have fun being the only creativity, Remus. She flicked her wrist, and a swirl of magenta smoke encompassed her before she vanished, her laugh still echoing softly in the distance. Remus, Roman spoke, his voice shaky. I'm sorry. No, you'll be fine. You've got to be. Tears pricked Remus's eyes, and he hated the way they ran down his cheeks. Hated that he was crying when it was his brother who was turning to ash before his eyes. He should be the strong one, looking out for Roman. He should have taken the blow. Don't blame yourself, Roman muttered, easily reading Remus's expression. I can hardly feel it anyways. I know you're lying. I can see it in your eyes. Remus winced as the ash spread further, coiling around Roman's forearms and neck with gray tendrils. His fault. This was his fault. I'll find some way to reverse it. I'll reverse the spell. There's gotta be some way to counter it. I promise there's gotta be a cure. We'll look everywhere. We'll find a way. Remus. The Duke flinched as Roman placed a hand on his forearm. He grew silent, tormented by the peace of Roman's face. Even on the brink of death, he was braver. There's not enough time. Don't say that. Not yet. Look at me. The prince's eyes drifted to his hands, almost all of his fingers transformed into cinders. Just stay. Before I have to go? Roman. Please, Remus. Just this last time. Remus fought the urge to refuse, to give up now and let the ashes spread when there could have been another way. Deep down, Remus knew that there was no other way. So he sat, facing his brother as silver fully covered his torso. There was a saddened smile on Roman's face as he met Remus's eyes, though he didn't dare show any more sorrow than that. He didn't even look afraid, just tired. Remember that one day you and I snuck into Janice's room? Roman recalled. You showed me where he hid his fancy chocolates, and we had nearly eaten the whole closet by the time he returned. Yeah. Remus tried to smile, too afraid to take his eyes off the spell spreading through Roman's veins. Janny was so furious. We must have been doing chores for a week. I was, at least. I distinctly remember you sneaking away to create monsters for everyone's beds. Sounds about right, Remus chuckled, but as he met Roman's gaze, his stomach sank. I'm sorry for being such a screw-up all these years. You're not a screw-up. You don't have to lie, Ro. Remus looked to the ground, away from his brother's eyes that now shone the slightest bit of silver. I know my place. All I wanted was for you to be happy, where you could fulfill your perfect life and all your grand fantasies. Roman reached forward, his hand hovering just over the Duke's shoulder. Any contact now would leave the prince crumbling to dust. I am happy, he said, meeting Remus's gaze. I'm happy that I have a brother like you, who adds the perfect fight scenes to my stories and has an extensive knowledge of morbid facts. You're not just a brother. You're my best friend, Remus, and I would follow you anywhere. Even to the infinitely combusting swamp? Yes, even to the infinitely combusting swamp. Remus chuckled, what was left of his smile quickly fading. I guess it's too late for that now. We'll save that for another time, all right? A soft smile crossed Roman's face, and he shifted to lean against a nearby tree. Wait, not yet, Remus choked, tears sliding down his face. Not now. It didn't take a genius to know what was to come next, but Remus refused to think of such possibilities. The ash had spread to Roman's face, creeping past his temples and chin. Moments until his twin would be no more. He couldn't fathom how Roman still managed to keep a smile on his face. It'll be all right, Ram. Remember all of our adventures. Wait, Roman, don't you dare leave me. Give that dragon witch heck, and please tell the others I'll miss them. Stop it, Remus cried, his hands beginning to shake. Not yet, please, Roman. The prince's eyes became silver, gazing upon the realm for the final time. His hair now remained still in the wind, nothing more than soot. Fight for me, he whispered as the spell slid over his lips, silencing his final breath. And then he was gone, nothing more than a form of ash and dust. Roman? Remus called, though there was no answer. Come on, Roman, wake up. This is just a dream, right? One of the nightmares from my horrid brain. Again, silence. Remus squeezed his eyes shut tight, clenching his fists until his nails cut into his palms. Wake up, you dork, he yelled. If you don't wake up, I'll steal your crown collection and melt them all into a giant metal chicken. Remus reached for his brother, unable to even lay a hand upon his shoulder without causing him to crumble. Please, he sobbed. I can't do this without you. Too late. He couldn't turn back the clock now. As Remus sat at Roman's side, a wind swept in from the north side of the imagination, and with it, Roman's form began to break. One by one, ash joined the winds, drifting until it had been blown above the line of trees. Remus watched helpless as his brother became nothing. He reached forward, though was only met with a few stray ashes. They escaped his palm, too small to be kept even within the Duke's hands. Roman was gone before he could even blink, the last pieces flurrying past the now setting sun. Roman's final words echoed through Remus's mind then, repeating again and again with a burning clarity, "Fight for me." If that was what Roman had wished, then Remus was going to do everything in his power to fulfill it. He looked to where his brother had sat, summoning a single white lily and placing it at the base of the tree. Silence enveloped the forest for a moment, almost seeming to mourn Roman in return. For the first time, the imagination was quiet. Remus stood, waving his hand and summoning his morning star. He gripped the weapon tightly in his hands, and with a final glance to the lily, Remus approached the tallest tower, the Dragon Witch's. "You want to play dirty, witch?" he growled, taking a fighting stance at the base of the tower. "Now it's my turn." This has been Fight for Me, a short story written by myself. Thank you so very much for listening, and I will see you next time for another story.